This is a pod. A pod about dogs.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Healthy Dog Pod. It's Sophie and Ian as always. And today we have a guest in. We have Rachel Black. Hey Rachel.
Good morning.
Morning, Rachel.
Rachel has been one of my clients since her dog Harry, who's a little Cavalier, was 11 weeks old. And now he's 10 months. So she's come in to share her story with us. So Rachel, tell us a little bit about Harry.
So we have a very interesting journey to share with Harry. Over the last 8 months, I've certainly learned a lot about dog ownership. We decided to add Harry to our family at the end of last year. And the choice for us to get a Cavalier out of all the dog breeds that are out there was based on the fact that my family dog was a Cavalier. She passed away 2 years ago when she was 12, and she was just the best dog ever. We had an amazing experience, and she added so much love to our family. So it was a really simple decision. While you're the crazy dachshund lady, I'm the crazy Cavalier lady.
It's true, guys.
And it's been known that I would shout out, "There's a Rosie," which was my old Cavalier's name when every time we'd see a Cavalier walk down the street. So yeah, the choice to get a Cavalier was quite straightforward for us. We thought about the decision to add a dog to our family long and hard. My husband and I had been together for 12 years and we felt like it was the right time to make that addition to our family. So we did at the end of last year.
Yeah. Cool.
So when you first got Harry, obviously we've got some experience with Cavaliers and, you know, we love them. And as a family, you've got to know them over the years. So you obviously went into this going...
Which obviously has, he has some challenges. So we were quite aware what dog ownership could look like, or what we thought dog ownership might look like. Our experience with a Cavalier had been very straightforward previously, and we'd had no significant behavioural issues. While the breed has a lot of health issues, we hadn't had any significant health issues with her. And that did fuel, in our search for Harry, us to be very careful around what breeder we got him from. And we actually contacted the King Charles Cavalier Society of New South Wales, and the breeder that we got Harry from, had all the health testing in place. She actually didn't advertise the pups whatsoever. She only gave them to people that came through the society. So we'd kind of done our groundwork and our research before we got him. And yeah, we thought we were all set to go, and we had a smooth journey ahead, and it didn't quite work out like that.
And you obviously took the time to take him to puppy school and, invest in him.
Absolutely.
Despite, going into it knowing what you were doing, you still took the time to learn. Absolutely.
I'm a typical type A personality. Like to have all the information. So I actually within the first week of having Harry, I discovered Sophie through Instagram, and contacted Sophie. I saw that she had personalised at-home puppy programmes where she would come to you for a 5-week period every week. And because of our kind of lifestyle, and I guess straight away we realised we probably had a lot of questions around having the puppy. We felt like having Sophie come on one-on-one into our home, and each week we could really address our individual needs, and we felt like that was a really good approach. So that's how we started our kind of training plan with Harry. Was Sophie visit us for the first 5 weeks,
and we discovered that we're neighbours. I live 2 doors down. I live 2 doors down, so it was great for me to just pop over. But we started the training from 11 weeks old. Went through the puppy program, and he did really well. So he did really well in the puppy program.
Yeah, we had a really strong start. I mean, those first few weeks are challenging. When you bring a puppy into your home, you suddenly realise you've got to puppy-proof everything. Everything's a chew toy.
Sleep goes out the window.
Well, we were actually really lucky with Harry. So his breeder had done loads of groundwork. He came to us crate trained, which was amazing. So we didn't have kind of that challenge to overcome, and he was already doing a really good job with toilet training. So he was holding his bladder from 10-11 at night to 6 in the morning. So even in those first few weeks, we weren't actually having to get up with him during the night. We'd pop him in his crate, he'd sleep all night. We'd come and get him at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and we had very, very few accidents. When we spoke to you in those first 5 weeks, house training wasn't really an issue. He kind of got that right away. So yeah, we had a really good start with him.
I love that. Like you've done your homework. This is such a great story at the beginning. It's like,
Yeah.
I did all my homework, I did
beginning.
everything right. Brought this dog in, and Robo-Dog arrived, and everything was perfect. Fantastic.
It's a very Rachel Black story.
So where did it start to go wrong, Rachel?
Well, we got kind of through that first month, really.
Yeah.
And we started to have some health issues with Harry, and that's, I guess, the start of the difficult journey with him. He started to, what we thought was vomit quite frequently. We later discovered it wasn't vomiting, it was regurgitation, and Harry had acid reflux, just like a baby gets acid reflux, which I hadn't heard of in a dog before. But the process to actually identify that that's what it was in itself was quite stressful. Harry, because we were doing frequent trips to the vets and he was so little, he actually started to become vet phobic. So going to the vets was becoming a really stressful. Kind of trying to do the investigations. Part of that process was the vet wanted to draw blood from him to identify if there's anything else going on. And Harry became really needle phobic. So he got really upset when they were trying to draw blood, to the point that in order to get a blood sample from Harry, he actually had to be sedated and go in for a sedation.
Wow.
And at that point, he would only have been, that would have been early February. So he's still only a few months old at that stage. So he's still a really little pup to put him through that. And in that process of trying to identify the acid reflux, it was really scary for us, because the vets were actually saying to us that they thought there was a possibility that it was one of many much more serious things that was causing the regurgitations. It could have been an enlarged valve in his heart that was pressing on his esophagus. He could have had a physical restriction in his esophagus somewhere that was causing the acid reflux, and all of those things. Some of them, surgery might have been the thing that could rectify it. Others, there might not have been. If he'd had an enlarged valve in his heart, there's not a huge amount that could have been done about that. So the outcome of it being acid reflux at the end of that process was really good, but the journey to find that out was really stressful.
Yeah.
He ended up having to do what they call a barium meal, where you eat food with dye in it and they watch how that food travels down his esophagus and into his stomach. He had multiple x-rays. So we got to the end of that process, and we kind of had a plan in place and medication to give him to help with the acid reflux. So that was hurdle number one.
How long was that process?
It was probably 4 to 6 weeks from the start of the regurgitations to identifying what it was. That was longer because Harry was vet phobic and needle phobic. So if we had been able to get blood from him quicker and do more investigations more quickly, but the vet was trying not to push him too hard, which meant the journey went on longer.
I remember when you were messaging me saying they thought it was this, they thought it was that, and it's also stressful for Harry, but it's also stressful for you guys as well, because it's not just what it is. It actually costs a lot of money if it's this or if it's that. It's going to be this much money, which is hard.
Absolutely. Well, even the investigations, when he actually finally ended up in the vet hospital and stayed overnight and had all the big tests, I think the vet bill at the end of that was $3,000. So we were very glad we had pet insurance.
Yes.
Yeah, we're very, very, very valuable. We've had a vet come in the past and say it's how insurance generally isn't used in so many circumstances, but as pet insurance is one of the most commonly used types of insurance. So we really do encourage new dog owners and puppy owners to run out there and get insurance and cover your ass.
Yeah, but you have to get it from the start because they don't cover pre-existing. So as soon as you get a puppy, it's best to do your research and get it from the start.
And we were lucky. Organised Rachel had it from day one, so that was good.
Good job, Robo-Dog came with that free organised insurance.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
So at this point, he is how old? So he's...
We would have been probably about the 4 or 5 month mark at this stage. So he was still really little.
Yeah.
Which again added to the stress, because while he's ill, you worry more about dehydration and all these kinds of other things because he's so small, and how much nutrition he's getting when he was regurgitating lots. Was he getting enough food for all the growth he needed to do? So yeah, he was still and still in that critical learning phase, right? So he's in that really critical phase that we all talk about. But it's really stressful for him because he's having multiple trips to the vets. There's different medications coming in out of him. We're trying different things with his diet to try and identify if any of those things are a trigger. So in that really critical learning period from him, so much in his environment was changing every day.
Yeah, and we always say, like, pain affects behavior, just like you and me. And it affects their mood, it affects how they feel, and it affects obviously how they then communicate, and even how they receive the information in front of them, whether it's from an individual, from another dog, from a person, from just this amount of stuff going on around them. They're just less tolerant. I know if I've got a bad back or something, I'm just a bit of a grumpy bastard that day. And if that's going on for a few months, it adds up. And you can, I think, well, that's what happened, isn't it? We kind of watched Harry go from very comfortable, happy, to start showing not only physical ailments, but signs of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, as a reflection for us at the time, we started very focused from a behavioural perspective, and then we had to focus our time, energy, money on a medical perspective. So, you know, all of our time was invested there. So we also probably took our foot off from a behavioural perspective. And then there was also challenges because obviously we're using positive reinforcement techniques with them, but we were really restricted with what food and treats we could give them through that period. So we were trying to still manage them behaviourally, but without having food as reward, which is challenging with a dog, right?
Yeah, and good point to bring up here is Harry's always been well trained. This training is not behaviour. You know, so many puppy owners, they'll go, my dog's well trained. Well, I've met heaps of dogs that are well trained but don't know how to behave. So it wasn't about him not learning how to sit and stay. It's just literally how the stress on his body was affecting his ability to read the world around him. And he was just getting more and more flooded.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the journey didn't stop from there. So we kind of went through that first hurdle, and we probably, after we identified it as acid reflux and had the medications administered to him to control that, we probably had a 3 or 4 week stable period where we started to see the regurgitations lessening, and we were able to start to go back with treats. And then unfortunately, after about 4 weeks, I was at the park with Harry, and he decided not to come back when I called him, and he jumped headfirst into a swamp, drank some of the swamp water, and that just triggered a huge gastric episode for Harry, which actually went on for about 2 months. So that was the trigger. So that was the next phase where it got really challenging and very stressful on us as owners. Because we had, when I say 2 months, I'm not exaggerating.
No, it was 2 months.
We had 2 months of, I would say, almost constant diarrhea with him, with some vomiting in there as well. And we had nights where we were up every 20 minutes in 7 consecutive nights in a row, taking him out to the bathroom. So you can imagine what that did mentally to us as a couple, without even thinking about what that impact was for Harry and all the groundwork we'd set with training and behaviours.
I even stayed over because you guys needed a holiday.
And then we ran off to New Zealand for 4 nights.
And I stayed over. So I actually experienced what they were experiencing. And it was tough. And it was only 4 nights for me. But I didn't sleep either. And I'm just going, wow, this is how they're feeling. This is what they're going through. It's hard.
And my husband and I, it was like having a child. We were having the conversations, it's my night, it's your night. We were taking it in shifts, in turns, and we were having conversations. I've got a big presentation at work tomorrow, so I really have to sleep tonight. So can you do tonight? And then, okay, but on Friday, I've got a really big meeting. So it was that. It's what, I'm not a parent yet, but it's what I imagine being a parent is probably like in those conversations. So we've had a really good training ground now for when we eventually become parents. But in all seriousness, those are the conversations. And mentally, it was exhausting. And the other thing that became really mentally exhausting is, you know, friends and family, like, how's Harry doing? Is he better? No. Oh, he's still not better? No, he's still not better. Have you tried this? Yeah, we tried this, we tried that, we tried that.
Basically, have you fixed it yet?
Yeah, have you fixed it? Have you fixed it yet? No, we've still not fixed it. And again, I talk back to, I'm a type A personality. Everything's organised. I know the answers to things. If not, I'll arm myself with the information and figure it out. And it was a huge learning curve for me to, I guess, accept that some things with Harry weren't in my control.
And you even mentioned earlier, about how it was affecting your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I talk about we were up through the night. Obviously, Harry was sick during the day. And as we've mentioned before, I'm incredibly lucky. Sophie not only was Harry's trainer, but walks him while we're at work. And Sophie is 2 doors down, which is amazing for us. So she can help us out lots. But we had days where we had to leave him and he was sick. And we did, obviously, to the start, we were, messaging work in the morning saying, hey, you're going to have to work from home today, dog's really sick. Well, it got to the point that both my husband and I depleted the dog sick days at work. We couldn't, and we joked. We said, oh, God, if we'd had a baby, at least I would have been on maternity leave, right?
Yeah.
Like it was to that level, where we're both still, we've both got quite stressful jobs where we're having to make big decisions and really turn up with our brains switched on, and trying to do that after 2 months of not much sleep. Was hard. And I had the conversation at work. I said to my boss, I know I can't text you again and say, the dog's not well, I can't come in. So we had to leave him some days when he was sick, and that's even more stressful because you feel so guilty leaving him. And as I say, we're very lucky because we knew that you could pop in, which was amazing.
And you've got all these, you're then affected by stress and the dog's affected by stress, and you've got these opinions coming at you. And I know at one point you went on social media and were like, hey guys, like just reaching out for advice from, hopefully looking to seek advice and comfort from maybe people that have been in that situation before. Yeah,
so I actually, when we first got Harry, there's multiple, I guess, dog groups on Facebook. Cavalier Australia, there's thousands and thousands of people in there, and there's Cavalier ones as well. I never actively posted in them, but I was definitely reading posts that were in there. And what I guess really struck me once I started to delve into these posts a little bit more is people are actively going out there and looking for health advice, training advice, behaviour advice for their new puppies or their dogs. And you'll click on the posts and there can be easily 130 replies sometimes. But these replies are from other dog owners, not vets, not dog behaviourists, not dog trainers. So you might have a post and a question, and you might have 15 different opinions on the right approach under it. And also I've noticed that dog owners are really passionate and strong with their opinions. So, I'd look at posts where somebody would say, I'm crate training my puppy, but XYZ. And there might be 50 people that have commented under it, shaming that person for crate training. And they're not qualified to have, they're not qualified to have that opinion. They're allowed to have their own opinion, but they're not a qualified dog trainer or dog behaviourist. So I kind of learned quite quickly that those seem to be really toxic places. And I wasn't going to listen to what was happening in any of those spaces. I would focus on the expert team that I had around me that I had to have around me.
You get the same sort of thing in dog parks. You go to the dog park and you get advice from, the local people that have got dogs and standing around in the dog park drinking their coffee, not watching their dogs. But these are they're dog owners, and look, it's like, I guess, like a lot like parenting. Everybody's that's been through it has a very strong opinion on it, but it is a very narrow lens. Somebody that maybe's had dogs all their life, they'll come in and absolutely, you're entitled to your opinion. I get it, but the reality is there is not enough information out there, so you're probably going to be misinformed. I read a post the other day about from Ignore My Dog, the group in New Zealand, and they were saying, like, when approaching a dog, assume that the dog, it doesn't know you. Even if the owner says, yeah, it's friendly, assume that the owner doesn't know what they're talking about, because the information on dog behavior is just so poor. So assume you know nothing, and assume the owner knows nothing, because I've said this for a long time, but anybody that's had dogs all their life and they're like, I know what I'm doing, I've had dogs all my life. I'm like, good on you, mate. I've had teeth all my life. I'm not a dentist.
It's a good way to put it. It's interesting you say that, because I guess I've got a few examples I can share of being in those environments where dog owners are. But one thing that sprang to mind there is, and we haven't got to this yet, but as part of the behaviour thing, Harry's actually become a bit dog reactive in terms of if he sees a dog walking down the street, he gets really overexcited. And something really interesting that I've noticed, and a technique we're using on the guidance of both of you, is at the moment we're just trying to remove him from those situations. So if I see a dog coming down the street towards him, I'll cross the road so that Harry doesn't end up going head to head with that dog. And there's been a few instances where it's been a big dog and the owner takes offence because they think I'm scared because Harry's a small dog. It's a little Cavalier. The owner thinks I'm pulling Harry away because, oh God, there's a big dog. He might hurt Harry. And I've actually there's a guy running past me. He's like, my dog's really friendly. I was like, no, it's not your dog. My dog's going to get really excited at seeing your dog, and I don't want that stress on him. So it's just, it's such a messy world sometimes. And I even think back to the first time we took Harry to the dog beach, and this was before all of his health issues had started, when we were in our nice honeymoon phase where he was sleeping all night and everything was rosy. Robo-dog. He was Robo-dog. We took him to the dog beach for the first time. He was tiny, and this dog owner came over, and she was very much kind of the queen of the dog beach. She was clearly there every day and knew all the dogs and knew all the owners, and this was her domain. And so she identified that there was a new dog at the dog beach and thought she should come over and introduce herself. So she came over to us and started talking to us. And within about 30 seconds, out of nowhere, I felt the need to express her opinion around crate training. Yeah. So very strongly said, well, I hope you're not keeping him in a crate because it's so cruel.
She'd been triggered that day, clearly.
I know. God, it was during the Christmas break. Everyone was nice and chill. But and my husband and I just were in a bit of shock and just stared at each other, and we didn't actually respond to her. And afterwards, I was like, God, I should have responded. But it wasn't worth it. But that's just one example. Another time I took Harry for a walk, and he was in a reactive mind frame. I had him on lead, and there was other dogs around him that were off lead, and that was stressing Harry, so he was crying. And a dog owner came up to me and went, can you not just let him off? Well, it's not really the solution here.
That's exactly the frame of mind we do not want to let off lead. He's going bananas. You know what? Let's reward that. You're going to create an absolute bloody idiot.
But the people are trying to shame you almost, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm in situations and I'm trying to make the best decisions for Harry with the knowledge that I have and the knowledge about him and the information you guys have armed me with. But yet other people who think they're experts about my dog, that they don't know his 10-month story, come and express their opinion. And that can be really, I've walked out of dog parks, out of dog beaches, really upset. Because it's stressful for me anyway, right? I don't want to have a dog that's crying when he sees another dog. Nobody wants that.
You don't need people telling you you're doing a bad job as well, because you're not. You're doing the best thing that you can do. And I think it's really hard because everyone can have a dog. And everyone thinks they know about dog behavior and dog training, but there's so much more that people don't know. And there's so much, as we said, misleading information out there, and Dr. Google doesn't always have all the best answers either.
Definitely doesn't.
No, and just to elaborate on one of the points Rachel said a minute ago about how just walk the dog away, what we're actually trying to do in that moment is teach Harry an alternative behavior, a socially appropriate behavior. He's losing his shit. He's losing his mind. He's overstimulated. At that moment, what we're actually doing is going, hey, you'll feel better if you just turn the other cheek and walk away.
Yeah. Taking
the dog into that scenario, and we talked about it in the previous episode with socializing. Harry's overstimulated. If he goes up to the dog, he's going to get real negative feedback because he is not going to be greeted well by that individual. Why would that individual want Harry in his face? The other thing is, because he's overstimulated, any feedback he gets, he can't read.
Yeah.
He can't hear it. So we're teaching socially appropriate behaviors. This is where that misconception of socializing your puppy is just like, hey, mate, just run around, be a goose, play. That goes back into that whole exercise thing where you're trying to tire your dog out so much that they crash and hopefully they sleep deep enough that they're well behaved. That's a whole nother episode, but that's what you're up against when you're actually just teaching socially appropriate behaviors. Your dog's not broken, and you're not broken because you're not throwing it in the deep end. You're actually just being quite normal.
Yeah, I think we've both had this situation too. I've had it a few times where I'll be walking and he'll be losing it to try and get to the other dog and crying and whining, and the other owner with the dog will be like, oh, just let them meet. They need to just meet. I'm like, no, they don't need to just meet. And then you try and walk away, and then Harry's crying and he's in a worse frame of mind.
Yeah, dogs can see each other from a long way away.
Yeah. And the other, I guess, challenge, and absolutely I've had that circumstance so many times, that the other owner thinks the fix is to let their dog come to Harry.
Say hi. Yeah.
which is hard. But the other challenge is while we're trying to do that technique where we avoid those social interactions until Harry's in a mind frame that he can handle and respond appropriately, is other dogs being off lead. So while we can control Harry on lead, if another dog's off lead, then obviously that's much harder for us to control, and that dog can come straight up to Harry. And I'm pleased to report we had that situation this morning, and Harry responded very appropriately and was a very social dog. But you know, probably 4 or 6 weeks ago, if we had had a dog off lead run up to Harry, that wouldn't have been the outcome.
You did have one. Remember you called me?
Oh, he actually kind of attacked Harry and I was crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was taking Harry to the vet to have a procedure done. So I was trying to have a really calm walk with him just to tire him out a little bit before we went to the vet. Because it's a whole process now, taking Harry to the vet. So I'll just pop to the vet with Harry.
No.
And I was walking him in what we collectively have identified as a nice safe environment, for Harry. It's in a few streets where we live. They're relatively quiet streets. They're not through roads. And they're long and straight. So I've got a good sight line in terms of seeing a dog approaching and can avoid the situation if I need to. And in this circumstance, we were turning a corner and a dog owner had their dog off lead. In hindsight, I saw them up in the distance, and he did move his dog away as he saw me coming. So I probably should have done a quick turnaround and gone the other direction, thinking he doesn't want his dog near Harry. But as I walked up, I didn't know they were then round that corner. And yeah, the dog jumped on Harry and attacked him. And the owner was really rude to me. So I was, I've already got a dog with some behavioural issues. So to have another dog jump on him and attack him is not ideal. And I physically, it was so severe I couldn't get between the dogs. The other owner pulled his dog off Harry. I was really upset, and I said to him, you can't have a dog that behaves like that off lead, because he didn't have him on lead.
Which is correct.
When I say I said that, I might have been screaming it across the road.
The little feisty Scot in you comes out.
I was screaming. The little feisty Scot came out. The protective mama bear came out. And I was screaming at him, and he was really rude, didn't apologise, didn't check to see if Harry's okay, turned his back on me and crossed the road and, told me to calm down, nobody's hurt. And I was saying, you don't even know that. You've not even checked to see if my dog's hurt. You don't know if my dog's hurt or not. And even if he's not physically hurt, there's psychological damage that might have come from this for Harry, given the mind frame he's in. And I was really upset. I phoned my husband, hysterically crying. I think he thought something really bad had happened. I called you crying. Yeah. Luckily, we were on our way to the vets, and the procedure Harry was getting, we were planning to give him a Valium anyway, and we think that the effects of the Valium might have knocked out the memory of that instance for Harry. So that happened to be a good circumstance there. But it just shows. And I had another circumstance where another dog owner had their dog off lead, and they probably got a bit of a lesson, and I didn't mean for them to get a lesson, but same deal. They were coming down the street towards me. Their dog was off lead. I wanted to remove Harry from the situation, so I actually went to cross the road in between two parked cars. I had my back, and I didn't realise that the other dog had followed me and was about to run onto the road after us. Now, I would never intentionally, obviously, do that, but the other owner got a real fright and was screaming. And obviously, as soon as I realised, I stopped so that the dog wouldn't follow Harry and I onto the road.
But it compromises everybody. It compromises you, because you're trying to look after your dog, and for the best needs of your dog, you're trying to get it away. It compromises that dog because it gets flattened potentially. It compromises the owner, and it can say the driver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
It's awful. I mean, very strong opinion on walking dogs off lead and on the streets. When somebody says, "Oh, he's never run off," I go, "Yet."
Yeah.
Because I walked my dog off lead for 5-6 years back in England, and she walked by my side, not because she was well trained. She had separation anxiety, but she was walking next to me. I thought she was well trained at the time because I knew nothing. And she walked next to me for years and years and years, and then she runs off in front of me because she saw my dad on the other side of the road. She got happy.
Yeah.
That was the reason. And I panicked and I screamed, "Sit down." And she did, thank God, because then a truck whipped in front of her. I screamed so loud that when that truck went past, I didn't even know it was my dad on the other side of the road. I just saw someone. And he is basically curled up in a ball because I screamed so loud. He's like, I thought I was being attacked. I just panicked.
But you never know what the trigger is going to be, right? Like
Exactly.
there could be a noise that dog has never heard in their life before, and so it causes a behaviour that they wouldn't normally do.
I've also come out of a driveway before and nearly hit a dog that was off lead way in front of their owner. And I had to stop, put on the brakes, and I was like, oh my God. And then the owner just walks past. I was like, are you kidding me? I just nearly killed your dog.
What shits me as well is when people sorry, I know it's going off topic again, but when the owner starts correcting the dog for not behaving appropriately when it's off lead, put it on a bloody lead and you don't have to shout at it. It's not rocket science, mate. Put it on a lead. And then when they go, oh, well, he doesn't walk well on lead, train it.
Yeah.
Invest some time and effort into your dog, you lazy bastard.
I think you said to me as well, maybe it was ignore your dog or something, or somebody said your lead's like a seatbelt.
Yeah, leashes save lives.
Yeah,
that
leashes save lives. That's it.
Rose Bay Vet. They put it up as their one of the pictures on Facebook, and it's absolutely correct.
Yeah, they do. They honestly do.
So that car veers off the road, and there's passengers in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole side topic.
That's a whole nother podcast. Well, let's go back to Harry. Okay, where did we get to with Harry? So he had the 4 to 6 weeks of gastro.
Yes. So we actually kind of got to a little bit of a crisis point, I would say. We just didn't really know where to go when we were the vets that we were working with at the time. Unfortunately, every time we visited, we were seeing a different vet.
Yeah.
And it was much more a case of treating the symptoms on that occasion than actually trying to get to the root of the cause of why he was being sick so frequently. They were also in the practice of using drugs pretty heavily on him. So every time we would go in, he would get an injection. And we've been told now that this particular injection is a very sore one for a dog to receive. It really stings. Harry would cry his heart out every time. And I mean, like, the needle's out and 3 minutes later he's still walking around the room crying. And this vet had said to us, oh, he's a big sook, he's, so scared. And we've learned since then from other vets that it's actually just a really, really, really sore needle for a dog to have, and he's had that needle 6 or 7 times, which then hasn't helped obviously with his
making quite needle phobic very quickly
association with the vet. So we were just in this cycle of not moving forward and not getting any better. And I guess, and like we've said already, the behaviour stuff was starting to creep in at that point too, because he was so sick. We were focusing on the medical things, and we probably were also by that point not in a great mind frame we were surviving as dog owners, thinking, what the hell did we do?
I think then you guys sort of reached out to me again. I walk Harry nearly every day, and then I went, not really sure where to go from here. I need some help. So I contacted Ian and I said, Ian, can we all sit down and have a chat with them, because I'm not sure where to go from here.
Yeah, like as somebody that works with Sophie all the time, I knew about Harry. I'd never met you before this point, but I was aware of Harry because Harry is a case that it was just throwing spanners in the works and curveballs, and nobody could see what was coming.
No.
And from what I could hear from Sophie's perspective, was how much the dog was struggling, how it's just one thing after another, how much the owners were struggling, and what was starting to happen, what I could see was Sophie literally just going, oh man, this is so much to take on. And I was trying to offer advice from afar without knowing the scenario, but it got to a point where I think, Sophie went, can we, like you say, can we get together and can you meet the dog, meet parents? And it's I've mentored you for a couple of years now, so I was happy to. And I sat down, and the first thing I could see was everybody was exhausted.
I think we all had
the eye bags were real. The eye bags were real. And I actually have to be totally transparent. The day before we met, I actually messaged Sophie and said, I don't think we're in a headspace to do this meeting. Like, we're broke. Like, I remember I was at work the day before. Ewan had to cancel plans. He had to stay home with Harry because Harry had been really sick that day, and we were like, oh, we're gonna have to take him to the hospital. Like, he was sick. We were drained, and I actually said to you, I don't think we can meet with you and Ian. I don't think we're in the headspace. And you said, you actually, and I'm really glad you did, you pushed back and said, Rach, I know you're not. Don't bring Harry. This is about, we want to help you. We really want to help you. We can see how much you're struggling. And I promise you, let's just have a coffee. we can just have a coffee and we'll just have a chat. And I'm glad you did push us to do that.
It's always so necessary. I think if you're struggling, you've got such a narrow scope on it. You start to focus in on that problem. You really hone in on the issue, and the immediate issue, and you become quite reflexive. Whereas it sounds terrible, but like it's not my dog. I have got years of experience of just actually being able to zoom out, take a wider lens, and see the bigger picture. And the first thing I did, I think, guys, was actually say, give yourselves a break.
Yeah.
Actually give yourselves a break and go and, like there are times when you actually just need to go for a walk without Harry and enjoy your relationship. It was just actually just a bit of self-love and a bit of self-care, and nobody's winning if we just carry on trying to grind through this.
And I cried, and Sophie cried.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in public.
And Ian's just like, oh no.
But really, that was 6 months of heightened emotion, really, coming to a head, and us slogging and just not getting anywhere with him.
And I feel like even though Harry's not mine, like I care about him so much. And I think you said to me, I'm his third parent.
Yeah, I do. You are his third parent. Because honestly, while you walk him every day, I probably text you 4 times a day, also giving you updates on how he's doing. Oh, he did this. We met a dog and he did this, or he didn't do this, and he's not had diarrhea today, and he ate all his breakfast, and like,
Yeah, and I love that.
there's very little that you don't know about Harry's.
I really, really care about him.
But we're very lucky that we found someone that cares about, this isn't just a
You're gonna
job
make
for
me
you.
cry.
That's it. And, everybody is coming from a point of view of, we just need to get this right. But you can't look after anything if you're not looking after yourself. And even when I looked at it, I went, Jesus Christ, this is a hell of a lot to take on. And one of the reasons why I told you to zoom out and give yourself a break was there weren't actually any immediate solutions. There wasn't a case of we can magically fix this. What I was doing, as much as I was trying to help you as well, I was buying myself time. I was going, right, I need to reflect here, and I referred you to a vet to actually get a different medical perspective, Dr. Matt, and the reason being is because there are definitely behaviour issues, but there's only so much you could do. At the time, we were still struggling to give him food rewards. There's only so much training could do. And what I could see from a medical perspective was the symptom was being treated, but we didn't know why. And so I treat behaviour the same way. There's no point in treating the symptom. There's happening because there's a cause. And at this point, when I met you, I had no idea what was going on physically with him. Nobody did. So go and get another medical opinion. And this is where now we've got the team of yourself, Sophie, Matt, and myself. And collectively, we don't actually make a decision for Harry, really, a big one, without consulting all 4 of us.
Yeah. And I actually posted the other day about the Healthy Dog Pod, and I tagged you guys and said, this Harry's Team's podcast is live. It takes an army. It takes a village. Like it really, with him, it has taken. And you're right. We have, since that time, working with Matt, we've made some significant decisions about how we're going to move forward with Harry, with his health and his behaviour. And it has been a collective decision across everyone. Is this the right plan for Harry? And even actually with our bubble, I know that Matt's then reached out to other vet behaviourists. So it's gone wider than that. So there might actually be 6 expert opinions gone into a medical decision for Harry. And I think what's been great for us about working with Matt, I guess lots of things have been great about working with Matt, but one of them is we now, we've always had real investment from a training and a behavioural perspective with having you guys on our team. But from a medical perspective, we now have one vet that is really invested in Harry, that knows the whole story, that is looking at the bigger picture. And in moments of need is there for us. There was an instance where Harry had a bout of diarrhea maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, and it was on a Friday afternoon. And at the time we were transitioning Harry onto a new diet with the guidance of Matt. So I'd called the practice, and Matt was in consultations back all afternoon. So the nurses had been really transparent and said, look, he's in consultations all afternoon. We're probably not going to get him to talk to you until Monday. And I said, that's fine. I just really wanted guidance on how to approach his diet over the weekend, given where we're at. And they said, no problem. We would normally our recommendation is XYZ. We'll try and get Matt to call you on Monday. And 7 o'clock that night, my phone rang and it was Matt. He'd finished his long day of consultations. He'd seen that I'd phoned and he'd taken the time. And he actually not only called me once, twice, we had a conversation and then he reflected and he called me back again, because his approach is very much like that. We'll be in a consultation with him and he'll say, I want to think about this. Let me think about this. And then he'll call us later, or he'll send us an email later with his decision. And that gives you so much confidence as an owner. That gives you a huge amount of confidence. Yeah,
and that's the way it should be seen. I know that some people in there when they're struggling, they're going to go, I need an immediate fix. What we're doing is we're aware that there isn't one. And so we're buying ourselves time to actually think and go, look, if you take a minute, and this is what we did with you in terms of go and rest and look after yourself. And we later on, a few weeks later, we did a training session, didn't we? Mm-hmm. And we actually taught you how to do exactly the same with Harry. Harry was going out and getting overstimulated. So rather than keep on flooding him, well, we stripped it back and went, well, this is the world that he can cope with. Let's make him very comfortable, get him to learn how to behave appropriately within this world, and then we grow it gradually. There's no handbook. And I think, again, you said it before we were talking today about don't make comparisons.
Yeah, absolutely. So two big talking points out of that is, one thing that I was doing a lot in this process of having a puppy is obviously, you know, we had friends that got puppies around the same time. I met people through Harry who had just got puppies. And you naturally compare. You know, it's like when we all have kids and they say, you know, when did they first take their first steps? How old were they? When did they do this? When did they do that? And I had to learn to stop doing that because I was driving myself insane. Because I was thinking, look at that puppy. It's only gone to the vet for its vaccinations and its checkups. So it's maybe been to the vet 2 or 3 times. We've been to the vet with Harry twice a week for the last 6 weeks. And I was just driving myself absolutely insane thinking, well, you can't think like that. And, you know, something that I've spoken to you and I've spoken to Matt about, and Matt often says to me, is that while we've had a really challenging start with Harry, it doesn't mean it's always going to be like this. You know, we're hopefully going to have Harry in our lives for 12 years, let's say. And yeah, we might have had a really difficult first 12 months. But it doesn't mean that the rest of his journey is going to look like this. And another thing that Matt said to me actually just this week when I was having a call with him is we're currently doing a gut rehab program with Harry to try and fix his gut. And he said, you know, it's amazing. We're doing this with Harry at 8 months. Well, we started at 8 months old. At 8 months old, I see dogs at 10 and think, God, I wish I had been able to do this with them when they were younger. So we're really investing in him now. Hopefully with, you know, the fact that it won't always be like this. And maybe, you know, these people have had a really easy start, not that I want them to, but they might face challenges further down the line. So
well, that happens every day. We get calls for dogs of all ages, and vets see dogs of all ages. And that's why we try and promote preventative care, because if you can get that right, it of course there's no guarantees, but it makes everything a lot better and sets solid foundations.
And we learned a lot around from Matt how his gut health was affecting his behaviour. You know, with Harry being so sick, really it's inflammation and irritation, you know, in his gut, and actually the gut has a lot to do with the brain. Mm-hmm. And we've seen the positive impact of well, Harry was sick yesterday. I'm very sad about that. We've actually had a 6-week period now when he's not been sick. And the behavioural improvements that we've seen in that period of stabilisation with his gut have been huge, because as his gut's calmed, his mind is able to be coming out of that red zone where he couldn't receive information, he couldn't make any decisions. He's been coming back into a level that he can listen and respond appropriately to us. We've still got a long way to go, but
at the moment,
we're starting to see progress. And then the other point I was going to talk to is, you know, you mentioned there about us stripping his environment back, and that was huge, not just for Harry but for us, because I was putting a lot of social pressure on myself. You know, I pictured having a dog that I'd take to coffee on Saturday morning, and I'd meet my friends at the park for a walk, and you know, all these things I thought I would do as a dog owner. And actually, Harry's not in a place that we can do any of those things for him, and he's not enjoying it, and it's super stressful for us when we try and put him into those situations. But it's actually been a journey trying to educate all the people around us too, because we've got friends that are like, oh, just bring Harry, just bring him. I'm like, no, really, it's not good for him. Oh, he'll be fine. No, really, you know, it's, you know, and people do it from a good place, right? No, it's all good intentions. I made really good friends with Sophie, Callie's mum, and when Harry was little and before all of his health and behavioural issues, Sophie and I were really enjoying going for walks together, and the puppies would play and have a great time, and this is when Harry could respond appropriately. And you know, she always mentioned, Callie and I are missing you, and I'm like, yep, as soon as Harry's in a mind frame where we can walk with you again, we will walk with you again. But at the moment, the more he's in these situations and he doesn't respond appropriately, he's learning that response. And I've actually I messaged my husband a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, it's so nice now. I can actually enjoy walking him because I'm walking him in a safe environment for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither of your amygdalas are firing.
So I'm in control, Harry's in control, and I love walking. That was a big part of getting a dog for me. And I had visions of me powering along the coastal path to Bronte, you know, every weekend with Harry. Harry's never been on the coastal path to Bronte.
I was going to say.
That would blow his mind.
Not yet.
He's literally not been on there. Would blow his mind. But then my husband said to me the other day, he's like, how long is it since you walked on the coastal path to Bronte? I was like, probably December when we got Harry. Haven't been there since. But while I've had to change my expectation of dog ownership at the moment, I am still now getting a lot of joy out of, you know, walking him and also seeing some incremental improvements. The smallest wins, you know, we had a good interaction with a dog this morning, and I text like 3 people. We just met a dog and Harry didn't get upset, and he listened to me when I said to go, and that feels like a huge win.
Yeah, it's all the little wins. We always try and focus on the little wins with Harry, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been tough. It's been a tough journey, and I've seen from the start how you guys have been and to now, and it's some big changes with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been good.
You know, it was a really testing relationship, and no, one of the things that I think dog owners fall trap of is continuing trying to test themselves and their dogs. Like, who's winning there? You know, like, take a step back and go, I'm not enjoying this. My dog's not enjoying this. There's nobody holding a gun to my head saying, I need to go and do it this way.
But there's that social pressure.
That's what
people
I mean.
Like, oh, you need to take your dog to the cafe, and you need to take your dog to the dog park. It's like, is your dog enjoying it? Probably not.
Or just to bring him, because people want, you know, friends are like, just bring Harry. We want to see him. And you have to be the big bad wolf that says, oh, actually, it's not good for Harry. And people don't, if you're talking to someone that's not been an owner of a dog with behavioural issues, they don't really understand.
Well, didn't see that coming. Rather than just ploughing on regardless of your own agenda, listen to the dog and pay attention, because behaviour doesn't move linearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there'll be challenges for, you know, Harry is still very much a work in progress. We've got lots of work still to do with him. You know, we're on a good trajectory now. We've got a really good team around us that's supporting us. But there's still a lot of work to do, and I know that there'll be changes in Harry's life there'll be changes in our life, and we're going to have to approach all of those really carefully, because Harry is very change sensitive. So I dread to think about, you know, when we move house or when we start a family, poor little Harry's mind is going to be blown. I did say that to my husband yesterday. He sent me an Instagram story of somebody with a newborn baby that was a week old, and their Cavalier sleeping peacefully next to them. I said, oh, that won't be Harry.
Yes, it will. We've got this. This is where we come in. You know, one of the things that I think you've definitely learned, I mean, as much as life does throw you curveballs, is that preventative care. It sets you up for a win. And if you can anticipate the change, even better. And things like that, you know, babies, they do take 9 months. So we do have 9 months to be ready. So, you know, all of these things we can definitely get on top of. It's just a case of we know our dog is sensitive to change, and we need to make sure that we don't flood him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right, guys. Thank you so much, Rachel, for coming in
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you
so
for having me.
much.
Thank you for letting me share Harry's story.
It's a great story, and you know we love working with you and working with him. I know that it's and Matt will just preach to this as well. You know, it's a test. It's challenged us, me and Matt,
And me too.
Yeah. Well, we've said it multiple times now. We're all going to learn from this. We don't have all the answers between us, and that's why we've got so many opinions on board, and we are all learning as we're going. You know, and this is where the dog owners, you did not stand a chance, mate.
Well, if the experts are learning,
That's it.
I'm a marketing manager, not a dog expert.
Not a dentist. Yeah, thank you, Rachel, for coming in.
Thank you.
And that's going to wrap it up, guys. If you want to hear, if you want any more feedback on this, join the community.
If you want to follow Harry at Bondi _Cav
on Instagram. Yep.
So
And
I had to throw that in there.
and what we'll do, guys, is when we will be available to talk about this all week in the community, please post your questions and we will answer as many as possible.